Can you share some examples of how that underlying magnetism can change our lives?
Sure. And this book has many, many different examples of these things. These are from my own personal life, but they're not really personal stories. They really, in a way, are universal experiences. But this just shows the reality of these practices in one person's life, but really it's in everyone's life. I'll give one simple example, and this is a very mundane one. Now, one of Yogananda's teachers, the gurus, he said to solve all your problems through meditation, through Kriya Yoga, through these practices. And it's not magical how it works. It's not like you do a practice and it's just automatic and mechanical and, like some hocus pocus and our problems get solved. No, it's by practicing these things, we start to change ourselves. And the person trying to solve the problem, us, starts to change and become better able to work with an intuitive understanding of a problem, of how to work with another person, how to make a change in our life, but also by changing the magnetism. In his book, Autobiography of a Yogi, Yogananda, he says something that's really food for thought. And it's really kind of revolutionary in a way. He says that thoughts are universally and not individually rooted. Thoughts are universally and not individually rooted, meaning that we don't create a thought. We draw thoughts and inspirations through our own magnetism by attracting them. And, the example you can see in the lives of great scientists or composers that, Einstein, for example, when he came up with the theory of relativity, he didn't invent that. He tuned into something that was already there, that was already a reality. And when he understood it, it's because his magnetism attracted the theory of relativity as a great inspiration. And then, only then, after it came to him, did he have to spend years explaining it and trying to translate it to ordinary people and even to other scientists. But it came because his magnetism, through his efforts to try to find truth, to try to understand the reality behind this seemingly material world, it generated the magnetism that attracted that inspiration. And there are some great composers who have talked about, I'm thinking of Handel, who wrote the Messiah, which is still famous and inspiring many hundreds of years later. He said that whole composition came to him from outside almost. He said he was in a very spiritually uplifted state. He said that he heard all that music as if sung by angels, and all he did in a way was write it down. And so you can see that thoughts, inspirations, solutions to problems, they're all out there. And when we uplift and change our magnetism, those things come to us. You see this in another example. When we're really moody, depressed, sad, our energy is really low, the thoughts that come to us are automatically negative and supportive of our mood in some ways. And when we're positive and uplifted, we attract thoughts and inspirations that are, relate and are drawn to that kind of magnetism. And I share a story in the book where I was working on Swami Kriyananda's staff. Swami Kriyananda is the founder of Ananda Sangha and was a direct disciple of Paramhansa Yogananda. And I was working on his staff, and there had been a construction project around his home. And when the project was finished, everybody left, all the carpenters, the electricians, the plumbers, everyone. And I was left to deal with some of the unfinished situations there. And there was one problem that was just extremely difficult and annoying. It had to do with some sounds that were being made in the plumbing and the pipes. They were really kind of obnoxious and irritating, and just all day long, every minute or two, it would make this really loud noise. And I called the plumbers. They came. They could not figure out what the problem was. I called electricians. I called everybody. No one could figure it out. And Swami Kriyananda kept asking me, well, have you figured this out yet? I mean, it was such a simple kind of a thing. But everyone left, and I was left to my own devices. And I was trying to find an answer. I knew there must be an answer, so I was positive. I hadn't given up, but I couldn't find it. One day I was meditating and I was practicing Kriya Yoga, and I was practicing, I wasn't thinking of my problems. And I was in a good meditative state. I was uplifted. I wasn't like in some huge state, but I was in a good uplifted state. And suddenly out of the blue, almost as an inspiration, well, I wouldn't say almost, it was an inspiration. The solution to this problem just suddenly came to me, even though I wasn't thinking about it. But obviously maybe on some subconscious level it was there. But I drew the solution through my magnetism by being in an uplifted state. Because when you're in an uplifted state, you place yourself in the realm of positive ideas and positive inspirations. Even solutions to plumbing problems can be solved through Kriya Yoga. And so it was a very unusual problem. It was a completely out-of-the-box solution. And we fixed that problem, a plumbing problem, through Kriya Yoga. Now, I share many more examples of how changing our magnetism and working with our energy helps us to solve much more compelling problems in our lives, personal relationships, problems with dealing with negative emotions. I talk about just the grief and loss that I felt when my own wife of 25 years passed away. And these are just very human situations that we all go through. And again, just talking about one's religion is tested in the cold, hard light of day. Yes, even with our own emotional lives, our very human lives, our human hearts, which go through just all the ups and downs that humanity goes through. And you can see, and I've seen it time and time again, and again with many, many others who have learned these things, that Kriya Yoga can help us solve pretty much any problem in our lives. Not in a magical way, but by giving us the strength, the control over our energy and our emotions, and give us really the power and just the ability to solve the problems. And so that's how meditation and Kriya can really be applied to solve any problem in life. One of the ways that this works is that when our emotions are very agitated, we don't see things clearly. We even that expression, the person was seeing red, is an expression. It's just like their mind was so agitated and they were so angry or upset that everywhere they looked, they saw red. It was just this very fiery, upset state. And so one of the techniques that are part of the whole body and practice of Kriya Yoga is a simple technique that works with calming the waves of emotion in our hearts. And it doesn't deaden human feeling, it just calms it. And Yogananda uses the analogy that it's a bit like when you're at night and there's a lake in front of you and it's a full moon and there's the wind on the lake is just causing agitated waves on the lake. You see the reflection of the moon, but really it's just sparkles of light and moving light, and you can't really tell what is there in that lake and what's being reflected because it's so agitated. And that's what it's like when our emotions are agitated, the waves of feeling of the heart. The practices of meditation, some of the very simple ones, and there's a very particular technique given by Yogananda that helps to calm the waves of human emotion. And then when you start to look at that lake, then it becomes very calm, and you can see the moon perfectly reflected in that lake. And this is what happens when we calm our feelings through working with the life force, certain breathing exercises and things that help with this. Then when our emotions are calm, we can see more clearly. And you can see this, I think we've all experienced being really upset and really emotional, lashing out at someone, and we just don't see clearly that maybe this person was trying to help us, or we just don't see the world clearly because our own upset is hiding it. And so the practice of meditation also helps by helping us to see much more clearly what is going on around us, and it helps us to calm ourselves. And you see this with people who are very calm and very awake and energetic, but in a very calm way. They can see things more clearly. And so this is what Kriya Yoga does in all of these practices. It helps us to see others more clearly, situations, but also our own selves and our own emotions and our own problems more clearly. And this is one of the ways that Kriya, the practice of meditation, can help us solve our very personal and human problems that we all go through in life.